Do Christmas cookies make it on the naughty or nice list? Well, I think some cookies are definitely naughty, and some happen to be nice. This is the nice list. These are warm, cozy, and sweet cookies you'd expect around the holidays, and I think one of these may be a new tradition for you. I've got 4 of my family's cookies that I think you're gonna love. Let's get into it. We've got a lot of sweets to make.
I've classified these 4 cookies as nice because they aren't quite as sweet or indulgent as some cookies. You'll also notice there aren't any chocolatey ones on this list, but don't you worry, they're coming. First, we have the lemon ricotta, pretty much a favorite of anyone that's tried them. These are soft, fluffy, and delightfully tart from the lemon. I'm using a stand mixer for this recipe, but this could easily be made with a hand mixer. Your oven can be set to 375 for these. We need to start by creaming 2 cups of sugar with 1 stick of unsalted butter. Mix this for 5 to 10 minutes until the butter and sugar are completely homogeneous. Use a spatula to scrape down the sides as needed, and then add 2 eggs, one at a time. We need the zest and juice of 1 whole lemon, but I don't have a microplane, so I've got to work for my zest. If you don't have one, follow my lead. Peel off the lemon rind, being cautious not to get too much of the bitter pith, that white stuff that's on there. Then finally mince those peels with your knife, and you'll have a beautiful zest ready to impart some nice brightness to the cookie. Cut your lemon in half, then juice it into the zest. You need around 3 tablespoons of juice. Use your hand or a strainer to keep out any unwanted seeds. To make these a ricotta cookie, we've got a 15-ounce container of whole milk ricotta that we're going to add to the mix. This creates a wonderfully fluffy and tangy flavor in the finished cookies. These things have almost a crumble cookie level of softness. Add your juice and zest to the mix along with 2.5 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. Mix that gently until everything has come together to form a nice, smooth-ish batter. I like to use a wooden spoon to give this one final mix. Each of these cookies is going to be dosed at 1 to 2 tablespoons, so I like using this 1.5 tablespoon scoop to dose each one. Place these on a parchment-lined baking sheet with enough room to spread out and bake them for roughly 15 minutes or so. They're done when a toothpick comes out clean from the cookie with no residue sticking to it. We're going to douse these in a lemony glaze to bump up the tartness, so mix 1.5 cups of powdered sugar with lemon juice from 1 large lemon. Quick tip, squeeze your lemon before juicing it to get maximum juicitude. Spoon a little icing on each one and let that cool. These cookies will stay moist for multiple days because of the ricotta. These little guys pack a massive punch and are sure to be a favorite this year. The next cookie in our list is a classic Italian waffle-adjacent cookie. These are Pizzelles. My granny always made these with anise, but I genuinely hated that licoricey flavor as a kid, so I'm replacing the anise with a mix of almond and vanilla extract. Not too untraditional, but someone is going to hate me for that. To 6 beaten eggs, add 1.5 cups of sugar. In a large bowl, mix 3.5 cups of flour with 4 teaspoons of baking powder. With your hands, mix in 1 cup of margarine. Tons of recipes call for butter or oil, but I'm going off of what Granny said. Add a splash of vanilla extract and a splash of almond extract to the egg mix, and then combine it with the dry. In the wise words of Broma Bakery, we measure vanilla from the heart. Mix that together with a wooden spoon, but don't worry about completely getting out all the clumps. Similar to like a pancake batter, any lumps will work themselves out as the Pizzelle iron heats up. I picked up this iron on Amazon and I'm pretty happy with it, so I'll link it down below. Once the iron is hot, add 1 tablespoon of dough to each side and seal it closed. Let that cook for about 90 seconds and then take them off with tongs. You'll see they're pretty floppy when they come off the iron, but they crisp up fast, so act quick if you want to shape them into anything like a taco or a cannoli. This recipe makes close to 4 dozen Pizzelles, so be ready to get stacks on stacks on stacks. I gotta say, I really love the almond flavor in these versus the licorice flavor from my childhood. They're light, they're crispy, and you can pretty much eat a million of them because it sort of feels like you're eating nothing. Pick a Pizzelle, any Pizzelle. Growing up, we constantly made way too many cookies with the intention of giving them away to friends and neighbors. This is one tradition Megan Kay and I will happily carry on into adulthood. It really encapsulates the spirits of the holidays to me. I'm not quite sure where this next cookie came from, but we always had them around. They're called Biscuits, but I couldn't really find any trace of them online. A friend of mine told me that they tasted like a Swedish cake he'd eaten before, so maybe someone can tell me where they came from. The oven will need to be at 350 Fahrenheit for these. Start by mixing 1 stick of margarine with 3/4 cup of sugar. Add 2 eggs along with half a cup of milk and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Mix that until completely smooth and then work in 3 cups of all-purpose flour. The trick to these is getting a consistency that can be rolled without making the final cookie too tough. So we need to add just enough flour after the 3 cups to not be sticky to the touch. But that amount is going to depend on where you live, /the day, /the humidity, tons of different factors. This is one of those old school recipes that is way better by feel. You'll know it's good once you can pick up a little piece of dough without it completely sticking to your fingers. Remember when we were kids and we'd make snakes from Play-Doh? Similar thing here. Take around a tablespoon of dough and roll it between your fingers to form a snake. Take the two ends and then twist them around themselves 2 times and place this on a parchment-lined sheet tray. You can wrap it around your index finger to keep a slight hole open, but ultimately these will puff up in the oven. One more time for you. Make a ball and then roll that into a snake. Take the ends and then twist them 2 times around each other. Continue this process until all your cookies have been twisted. Bake these for around 12 minutes at 350. These are a little denser than the other cookies, so be sure to test these with a toothpick. A batch of mine took closer to 14 minutes to actually finish. Let these cool on a rack and we'll make a simple powdered sugar glaze. Mix 1 cup of powdered sugar with a few tablespoons of water until a thick glaze is achieved. The texture of the glaze is totally up to you, but this lends some much needed moisture to the biscuits. Another classic for my family is adding sprinkles to the glaze, makes them feel a little bit more fun that way. They're really fluffy and pretty simple in flavor, just some light sweetness with vanilla undertones, perfect alongside some coffee. These aren't my favorite cookies of all time, but I'm always surprised at how much people tend to love them. They're simple, fluffy, and satisfyingly doughy. The glaze and sprinkles make them feel like a legit treat. Alright, it's time for everybody's favorite, the gingerbread cookie. My wife absolutely loves the Little Debbie gingerbread cookies, so mine have to be softer and chewier than the processed ones. My wife also wanted me to say that we should normalize eating gingerbread year-round. Start by creaming 2 sticks of butter with 1 cup of sugar. In a large bowl for dry ingredients, measure out 5 cups of flour. To that flour, add all the ingredients shown on screen. While the butter and sugar are still mixing, sift all your dry ingredients. To the stand mixer bowl, crack in 1 egg and then add 1 cup of molasses. Because we're using baking soda, we actually need to add 2 tablespoons of white vinegar as well. In small batches, add your sifted ingredients to the mixer. Scrape down the sides and let this go on low. This is going to get really puffy and the flour is going to go everywhere if you go fast. It's probably a good idea to switch from the whisk to the paddle attachment as well. Once combined, this needs to chill in the fridge overnight, so separate the dough into manageable batches and store in the fridge. It's the next day, but good thing sweaters can be worn multiple days in a row because you wouldn't know. I batched this too large, so I had to take it down to a workable size. It's going to be a little bit more challenging to roll out while fully cold, so give it a good few whacks. Roll your dough out on a floured surface to a little bit over 1/4 of an inch thick. Remember, we're competing with Lil Deb here. If anything, I actually went a little too thin in the beginning, so make these a little thicker. Stamp these with your favorite decorative cutter and bake at 350 for around 8 to 10 minutes. The molasses is going to do the heavy lifting here to keep these moist. Any scraps should be re-rolled together until all the dough has been used. As per usual, let these cool on a wire rack while we make an icing. My family always made a faux royal icing using meringue powder instead of actual egg whites, so that's what I'm doing here. To 3 cups of powdered sugar, add 2 tablespoons of meringue powder. To get the texture we want, slowly add close to 5 tablespoons of water until the icing has come together into a pipeable liquid. The meringue powder is going to let this harden up nicely when cooled. I just separated the icing into a white batch, a red batch, and a green batch. These liquid food dyes never work as well as the gel ones. I just can't get the color right. It always turns out kind of pastel-y, but who cares? I'm not a great decorator, so I aim for fun and even icing. You can roast me in the comments, I know I'm bad at it. What's the point of making gingerbread if you're not going to decorate them, have fun with it, and make them with your loved ones? That's kind of the point of this in general. You make a bunch of delicious cookies, and then you find people you care about to give them to. This is our first Christmas we'll spend not with either of our families, so we're really trying to form traditions around our friends up here in Seattle. Happy holidays, everybody. I hope you make some of these cookies to give away this year. If you want to see my favorite Christmas cookie, check out my video from last year, and stay tuned for the naughty cookies coming soon.